The marketplace fell silent as Amara's phone slipped from her trembling hands and shattered against the dusty ground. Her face, once glowing with confidence, had turned pale with shock. The number on her screen before it cracked was impossible to ignore. 3 million followers had just watched her biggest mistake. Her carefully built world of perfect photos and smiling videos was crumbling faster than mud walls in the rainy season. The village elders stood around her, their faces twisted with anger and disappointment. What had she done to deserve this? How did being an influencer lead to this moment of complete disaster? But let us go back to where it all began, to understand how young Amara from the small village of Bakara found herself in such trouble. Amara was a bright girl of 17 who lived with her grandmother, Mama Koku, in Bakara. The village sat between rolling hills and a winding river that sparkled like diamonds when the sun hit it just right. Life in Bakara was simple. People farmed, fished, and told stories under the great baobab tree when evening came. But Amara wanted something more. She wanted something different. Everything changed the day her cousin Chidi visited from the big city of Lumosi. Chidi carried a shiny phone that seemed to hold magic inside it. He showed Amara something called social media, where people shared their lives with the whole world. Amara watched in amazement as Chidi scrolled through pictures of people she had never met. Beautiful women in flowing dresses. Handsome men standing beside fancy cars. Children eating foods she had never seen before. What caught Amara's attention most were the influencers. These were people who made money just by posting pictures and videos online. They received gifts from companies. They traveled to wonderful places. They wore new clothes every single day. Their lives seemed perfect, like something from a dream. Chidi noticed the wonder in Amara's eyes. He smiled and said, "You could do this too, cousin. You are beautiful and smart. People would love to follow you." Amara felt her heart race with excitement. Could she really do this? Could a simple village girl become famous like those people on the screen? That night, Amara could not sleep. She stared at the ceiling of her small room, imagining a different life. No more waking up at dawn to fetch water from the river. No more spending hours grinding cassava under the hot sun. She could be someone important. Someone that people admired. Someone with thousands, maybe even millions of followers. The next morning, Amara approached Mama Koku with a request. "Grandmother, I need a phone with internet. Please, it is very important." Mama Koku looked up from the vegetables she was cutting. Her old eyes studied Amara's face carefully. "A phone with internet. Child, those things cost more money than we earn in 3 months. Why do you need such a thing?" Amara explained about influencers and social media. She talked about how she could make money by sharing her life online. She promised that soon she would be able to help with all the household expenses. Mama Koku listened quietly, her face unreadable. When Amara finished, the old woman sighed deeply. "My child, things that look sweet on the outside can be bitter inside. But I see the fire in your eyes. I will ask your Uncle Obi to help us get this phone. But remember, not all that glitters is gold." 2 weeks later, Amara held her very own smartphone. Her hands shook with joy as she created her first social media account. She called herself Amara of Bakara and wrote in her profile, "Village girl with big dreams." She spent the entire day taking pictures. Pictures of the river at sunrise. Pictures of her grandmother cooking. Pictures of the village children playing. She posted them all with hopeful hashtags. The first week, nothing happened. Amara gained only 12 followers, mostly people from nearby villages who Chidi told about her account. She felt disappointed but refused to give up. She watched videos about how to become a successful influencer. They all said the same things. Post every day. Use trending sounds. Show your real life. Be authentic. Most importantly, give people something they cannot find anywhere else. Amara thought hard about what made her special. What did she have that city influencers did not? Then it hit her. She had the stories. The ancient folktales that Mama Coco and the village elders told under the baobab tree. Stories about Anansi the spider and his clever tricks. Tales of the thunder god and the tortoise who challenged him. Legends of brave warriors and wise women. These stories had been passed down for hundreds of years, but most young people had never heard them. She started making videos where she acted out these folktales. She used simple props from around the village. A clay pot became a magic vessel. A piece of bright cloth became a king's robe. Her grandmother's old beads became treasure from a hidden cave. Amara poured her heart into each video, speaking clearly and adding dramatic pauses just like the village storytellers did. Slowly, her follower count began to rise. 50 followers became 100. 100 became 500. People left comments saying they loved learning about African folklore. They said her videos reminded them of stories their own grandparents had told them. Teachers wrote that they showed Amara's videos to their students. Parents thanked her for creating content that taught their children about culture. Within 2 months, Amara had gained 5,000 followers. She was thrilled beyond words. The village people started recognizing her. "There goes Amara, the one who tells stories on the phone," they would say. Some were proud. Others were suspicious. "Why does she spend so much time on that device?" they whispered. "Is she still a proper village girl, or is she becoming too modern?" Amara ignored the whispers. She was too busy planning her next videos. Her follower count kept climbing. 10,000. 20,000. 50,000. Companies started sending her messages. They wanted her to promote their products. A clothing brand offered to send her traditional African dresses if she would wear them in her videos. A food company wanted her to cook with their ingredients. A phone company offered her money to show their logo. Amara felt like she was walking on clouds. She accepted every offer that came her way. Money started flowing into her mobile account. Not huge amounts, but more than she had ever seen before. She bought new clothes for herself and Mama Coco. She paid for repairs to their house. She donated money to fix the village school's roof. People began to see her differently. She was no longer just Amara. She was Amara the influencer. Amara the success story. But success brought new pressures. To keep her followers interested, Amara needed to post more content. Better content. More exciting content. The simple folktales were not enough anymore. People wanted to see more of her life. They wanted to know what she ate, what she wore, where she went. They wanted her to dance to trending songs. They wanted her to do challenges that other influencers were doing. Amara found herself spending 6 hours every day creating content. She barely had time to help Mama Coco with chores. She stopped attending evening gatherings under the baobab tree because she was too busy editing videos. Her eyes hurt from staring at the screen. Her neck ached from holding the phone at the right angle for selfies. But she could not stop. If she stopped posting, her followers might forget about her. Other influencers might take her place. Then one day, a company called Freestyle reached out with an incredible offer. They would pay her more money than she had made in the past 3 months combined. All she had to do was promote their new line of beauty products in a special way. They wanted her to film herself at the Sacred Falls, a waterfall 30 miles from Bakara that the villagers considered holy ground. Chapter 2. Amara stared at the message from Freestyle for a long time. The Sacred Falls. Every child in Bakara grew up hearing stories about that place. It was where the ancestors came to drink water in the spirit world. It was where the village founders had made a covenant with the river goddess centuries ago. No one was allowed to go there except during the annual cleansing ceremony, and even then, only the elders could approach the water itself. The punishment for breaking this rule was severe, though Amara had never seen it enforced. Most people simply respected the tradition. But the money Afrostyle was offering could change everything. She could buy a new house for Mama Coco. She could pay for her younger cousins to go to school in the city. She could finally prove to everyone that being an influencer was a real job, not just playing with a phone as some villagers claimed. Amara convinced herself that times were changing. Surely the old rules did not apply to something as harmless as taking a few pictures. She did not tell Mama Coco about the plan. She did not tell anyone. Early one Saturday morning, while Misty clung to the ground, Amara packed her ring light, her phone, and the Afrostyle beauty products into a bag. She told her grandmother she was going to film at the regular river. Then she set off toward the sacred falls. The journey took 3 hours on foot. Amara walked through forests where monkeys called to each other in the trees. She crossed streams where colorful birds dipped their beaks into clear water. As she got closer to the sacred falls, the air felt different. Heavier somehow. The usual forest sounds grew quieter. Even the insects seemed to buzz more softly. When Amara finally reached the falls, she gasped. The place was even more beautiful than the stories described. Water cascaded down smooth black rocks, creating a curtain of silver that caught the sunlight. Rainbow colors danced in the mist. Ancient trees surrounded the pool at the bottom, their roots twisted like the fingers of old women. Flowers she had never seen before grew along the banks, filling the air with sweet perfume. For a moment, Amara felt she should turn back. Something about the place made her skin tingle with warning. But then she thought about the money. She thought about her growing follower count. She thought about becoming the most famous influencer in the entire region. She pushed her doubts aside and began setting up her equipment. Amara spent 2 hours filming at the sacred falls. She washed her face with the holy water while praising the Afrostyle face wash. She dipped her hair into the pool while promoting their shampoo. She stood directly under the waterfall in a beautiful dress, laughing and twirling for the camera. The videos came out perfectly. The lighting was magical. The location was breathtaking. This content would surely make her go viral. As she packed up her things, Amara noticed something strange. The water in the pool had stopped moving. It sat perfectly still, like a mirror, even though the waterfall continued to pour into it. A chill ran down her spine. She grabbed her bag and hurried away from the sacred falls, practically running back through the forest. That evening, Amara edited her videos and posted them. She wrote a caption about finding beauty in nature and thanked Afrostyle for their amazing products. Within minutes, likes and comments began pouring in. Within an hour, the video had been viewed 50,000 times. Within 3 hours, 100,000 people had seen it. Amara watched the numbers climb with pure joy. This was it. This was her breakthrough moment. But not all the comments were positive. Some people who recognized the sacred falls were outraged. "How dare you disrespect our holy place," one person wrote. "You have brought shame to Bakara," wrote another. "The ancestors will not forgive this," warned a third. Amara deleted these comments as fast as they appeared. She focused only on the praise, on the new followers flooding to her account, on the money depositing into her mobile wallet. By morning, Amara had gained 200,000 new followers. Her video had been shared across multiple platforms. News blogs were writing articles about the village girl who became an overnight sensation. Companies were lining up to work with her. Amara felt invincible. She had made it. She was finally a real influencer. Then Mama Coco walked into her room, her face carved from stone. "Amara, we need to talk." The old woman's voice was cold in a way Amara had never heard before. "People are saying you filmed at the sacred falls. Tell me this is not true." Amara's mouth went dry. She wanted to lie, but the evidence was right there on her phone for the whole world to see. "Grandmother, I can explain." It was just for work. I did not hurt anything. I just took some pictures. Mama Koku's eyes filled with tears. Child, do you know what you have done? That place is protected by forces older than our village. The river goddess does not care about followers or money. You have broken a sacred law. Before Amara could respond, they heard shouting outside. She rushed to the window and saw a crowd gathering in front of their house. Villagers of all ages stood there, and they looked angry. Very angry. At the front of the crowd stood Chief Ebiona, the village leader, along with the council of elders. Their faces were stern and unforgiving. Chief Ebiona's voice boomed across the compound. Amara, daughter of this village, you must come out and face what you have done. Amara's legs shook as she walked outside with Mama Koko. The crowd parted to let them through. Faces she had known all her life now looked at her with disappointment and rage. Children who used to wave at her now hid behind their mothers. Young people who had celebrated her success now turned their backs. Chief Ebiona spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Amara, you have violated the sacred falls. You have used our holy place to sell products like it means nothing. You have disrespected our ancestors and broken the covenant our founders made generations ago. What do you have to say for yourself? Amara tried to find words, but her throat felt like it was filled with sand. She wanted to explain about the opportunity, about the money, about how she thought it would help everyone. But looking at the faces around her, she realized how foolish she had been. She had traded something priceless for something as temporary as likes and views. I am sorry, she whispered. I did not understand. I thought things had changed. I thought the old ways did not matter anymore. An elder named Boba Femi stepped forward, leaning heavily on his walking stick. The old ways matter because they protect us. They keep balance between our world and the world of spirits. You have upset this balance, child. And now we must all pay the price. As if to prove his words, a strange sound echoed across the village. It started as a low rumble, like distant thunder. But the sky was clear and blue. The rumble grew louder, turning into a roar that seemed to come from the earth itself. The ground beneath their feet began to tremble. People screamed and grabbed onto each other. The shaking grew stronger. Clay pots fell from shelves and shattered. Chickens squawked and fled in panic. The great baobab tree at the center of the village swayed dangerously, its ancient branches creaking like old bones. Then, as suddenly as it started, the shaking stopped. An eerie silence fell over Bakara. Everyone stood frozen, afraid to move or speak. Chief Ebiona's face had gone grey. It has begun, he said quietly. The river goddess is angry. She is warning us. Before anyone could respond, a young boy came running from the direction of the regular river, the one where villagers got their daily water. He was crying and could barely catch his breath. The river, he shouted. Something is wrong with the river. The crowd rushed toward the riverbank. What they found made everyone gasp in horror. The river that had flowed with clean, clear water for as long as anyone could remember had turned blood red. Not the red of clay or mud, but the deep crimson of actual blood. Dead fish floated on the surface, their silver scales catching the sunlight. The water that had given life to Bakara for centuries now looked like death itself. An old woman fainted. Children cried. Men stood with their mouths open, unable to believe what they were seeing. This was the river where they bathed. Where they washed their clothes. Where they caught fish to feed their families. And now it was poisoned. Boba Femi turned to face Amara. His voice shook with emotion. Do you see now? Do you understand what your actions have brought upon us? The river goddess has cursed our water. Without the river, Bakara would die. Amara felt like the ground was swallowing her whole. This could not be happening. It could not be real. But the red water did not lie. The dead fish did not lie. She had caused this. Her desire for fame and money had brought disaster to everyone she loved. Chief Ebiona raised his hand for silence. We must decide what to do. The council will meet tonight to determine Amara's punishment and how we can appease the river goddess. Until then, no one is to use water from the river. We will have to travel to the next village to get clean water. As the crowd dispersed, muttering and casting dark looks at Amara, a woman named Neko approached. She was only a few years older than Amara and had always been kind to her. But now her face was twisted with anger. My baby is sick and needs water to make medicine. But because of you and your stupid videos, I have to walk 10 miles to find clean water. I hope you are happy with your followers. Those words hit Amara harder than any physical blow could have. She had not thought about consequences like this. She had not imagined that her actions could hurt real people in real ways. The fame and money suddenly felt worthless, like ashes in her hands. That night, Amara could not eat. She could not sleep. She lay on her mat, staring into the darkness, replaying everything in her mind. Her phone kept buzzing with notifications. More likes. More comments. More followers. But each buzz felt like an accusation. She finally turned the phone off and threw it across the room. Mama Koku sat beside her, stroking her hair like she used to do when Amara was a small child. Grandmother, how do I fix this? Amara whispered. How do I make it right? The old woman was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was heavy with sadness. Tomorrow, the council will decide. But I will tell you something, my child. The river goddess is not cruel. She is testing us. Testing to see if we still remember who we are. If we still respect the sacred. If we value our traditions more than modern foolishness. What can I do? You must be willing to give up what you value most. Only then might the goddess consider forgiveness. Amara knew what that meant. Her phone. Her account. Her followers. Her influencer dreams. Everything she had worked for over the past months. Could she really walk away from it all? Before she could answer, a scream pierced the night air. Then another. And another. Amara and Mama Koku rushed outside to find chaos. The village well, the backup water source when the river ran low, had also turned red. Every single water source in Bakara was now poisoned. People ran through the streets in panic. Mothers clutched their children. Men shouted about moving to other villages. The carefully ordered world of Bakara was falling apart, and it was all because of what Amara had done at the sacred falls. Chief Ebiona's voice rose above the chaos, calling for an emergency council meeting. Right now. In the middle of the night. Bring the girl, he commanded, pointing at Amara. We must deal with this immediately, before our entire village is destroyed. As the elders gathered under torches that cast dancing shadows, Amara was brought before them. She had never felt so small, so ashamed, so completely terrified. The council sat in a semicircle, their faces stern and unforgiving in the flickering light. Chief Ebiona spoke first. Amara of Bakara, your actions have brought a curse upon our village. Our water is poisoned. Our fish are dead. If this continues, we will all be forced to leave our ancestral home. The council has discussed your punishment. Amara's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. You must journey to the sacred falls alone, Chief Ebiona continued. You must ask the river goddess for forgiveness. And you must offer her what you value most. Only then might she consider lifting this curse. When? Amara asked, her voice barely audible. Now. Tonight. There is no time to waste. Mama Koku stepped forward. She is just a child. Let me go with her. Please. But Baba Femi shook his head. The offense was hers alone. The journey must be hers alone. This is the only way. Amara looked around at the faces of her village. These people who had raised her, celebrated with her, mourned with her. She had betrayed them all for something as empty as internet fame. Now she had to make it right, or lose everything. She nodded slowly. I will go. I will face the river goddess. And I will accept whatever punishment she decides. As Amara gathered supplies for the night journey, her phone sat forgotten in the corner of her room. The screen lit up with a notification. Her video from the Sacred Falls had just reached 3 million views. 3 million people had watched her biggest mistake. 3 million witnesses to the moment that destroyed her life and cost her village. The notification seemed to mock her, celebrating her success while her world burned down around her. The forest at night was a different world. Amara walked alone through darkness so thick she could barely see her own hands. She carried only a small lamp, a calabash of palm wine as an offering, and the weight of her guilt. Every sound made her jump. Owls hooted warnings from invisible branches. Something rustled in the bushes beside the path. The forest spirits were awake and watching. Amara thought about turning back a dozen times. But each time she slowed down, she remembered Neko's sick baby. She remembered the red water. She remembered the disappointment in Mama Koku's eyes. So she kept walking, even though her legs felt like they might collapse beneath her. The 3-hour journey felt like 3 days. By the time Amara reached the Sacred Falls, the moon had risen high in the sky, painting everything in silver light. The waterfall looked different at night. More alive somehow. The water seemed to glow with its own light, and the mist rising from the pool sparkled like stars had fallen into it. Amara's hands trembled as she approached the edge of the pool. She knelt on the smooth rocks and placed the calabash of palm wine beside her. For a long moment, she did not know what to say. How did you apologize to a goddess? What words could possibly be enough? Finally, she spoke, her voice cracking with emotion. Great river goddess, I am Amara from Bakara. I came here without permission. I used your sacred place for my own gain. I did not think about tradition or respect. I only thought about myself, about followers and money and fame. I am sorry. I am so sorry. The waterfall continued its endless song. Nothing changed. Amara felt panic rising in her chest. What if the goddess would not listen? What if she had angered her too much? Please, Amara continued, tears now streaming down her face. Punish me if you must, but do not punish my village. They did nothing wrong. This is all my fault. I will give up anything. I will do anything. Just please, let the water run clean again. Still nothing. The forest remained silent except for the falling water. Amara felt desperation clawing at her throat. She pulled out her phone, the thing that had caused all this trouble. The screen lit up her face in the darkness, showing her reflection. She barely recognized herself. When had she become this person? When had likes and comments become more important than her own people? This, Amara said, holding up the phone. This is what I valued most. This device that connects me to millions of strangers but disconnected me from my own village. I offer it to you, great goddess. Take it. Take my account, my followers, my influencer dreams. Take it all if you would just forgive me. She stood up and drew her arm back, preparing to throw the phone into the sacred pool. But before she could release it, a voice stopped her. It came from everywhere and nowhere, from the water and the trees and the very air itself. Stop. Amara froze. The voice was beautiful and terrible at the same time, like music played on instruments made of storm and starlight. Slowly, the mist above the pool began to swirl and take shape. A figure emerged, tall and graceful, made entirely of water. The river goddess herself. She had eyes like deep pools, hair that flowed like currents, and skin that shimmered with every color of the river at sunset. She was the most beautiful and frightening thing Amara had ever seen. The girl fell to her knees, unable to stand in the presence of such power. "You think I want your device?" the goddess asked, her voice rippling with something that might have been amusement. "What use have I for such things? The rivers run long before your machines existed and will run long after they are forgotten." "Then what do you want?" Amara whispered. "How can I make this right?" The goddess glided closer, her form shifting like water in a stream. "Tell me, child, why did you come to my sacred place? To make a video? To promote products? To gain followers?" Each word felt like swallowing stones. "And why did you want these followers?" Amara thought carefully before answering. "At first, I thought it would make me special. Important. I thought if enough people knew my name, if enough people watched my videos, then I would matter. Then my life would have meaning." "And does it? Does your life have meaning now that 3 million people have watched your mistake?" The question struck Amara like a physical blow. "No," she admitted. "I feel emptier than ever. I traded real relationships for fake ones. I traded respect for attention. I traded wisdom for likes. I was so busy showing my life to strangers that I forgot to actually live it." The goddess nodded slowly. "Now you begin to understand. But understanding is not enough. You have broken sacred law. You have treated holy ground like a backdrop for selling soap. What punishment do you think you deserve?" Amara's mind raced. What could she offer? What could possibly balance what she had done? Then it hit her. The only thing that made sense. "Take my voice," Amara said quietly. "I used it to disrespect this place. I used it to make videos that valued money over tradition. Take it so I can never speak again. Just please, save my village." The goddess studied her for a long moment. The waterfall seemed to pause mid-fall, holding its breath. Then the goddess spoke again, and her voice was softer now, less like a storm and more like a gentle rain. "You would give up your voice? The very tool you used to build your following? The gift you used to tell the old stories?" "Yes." Without hesitation. "My village matters more than any video I could ever make." The goddess began to circle around Amara, her watery form leaving droplets that glowed on the rocks. "I have watched humans for thousands of years. I have seen them grow proud and foolish. I have seen them forget the old ways, abandon the sacred, chase after new things that promise happiness but deliver only emptiness. You are not the first to disrespect this place, child. But you might be the first to truly understand what you have done. Does that mean you will forgive me? Will you lift the curse?" "I will tell you a truth, Amara of Bakara. There is no curse." Amara's head snapped up in shock. "But the red water, the dead fish, the poison well." "The water turned red because your village mines copper upstream. The rains this week washed the copper dust into the river. It happens every few years when the rains come hard. The fish died because they are sensitive to the copper. The well turned red because it connects to the same underground water source. All natural. All explainable. No magic at all." Amara felt like the world was spinning. But the earthquake? The timing? A coincidence? Or perhaps the earth itself was reminding you that some forces are bigger than your phone screen. The goddess smiled, and it was not unkind. "Your people believe in me, so they see my hand in everything. Sometimes that belief protects them. Sometimes it blinds them. But the real curse, Amara, was never in the water." "Then where?" The goddess placed a hand made of water on Amara's chest, right over her heart. It felt cool and oddly comforting. "Here. The curse was in forgetting who you are. In believing that strangers' opinions matter more than your grandmother's wisdom. In thinking that numbers on a screen measure your worth. In losing yourself while trying to show yourself to the world. Tears poured down Amara's face, mixing with the mist from the waterfall. Everything the goddess said was true. She had been cursed, but she had cursed herself. So what do I do now? Amara asked. How do I fix what I have broken? You go back to your village. You tell them the truth about the water. You help them clean the mining area so this does not happen again. And you decide what kind of influencer you want to be, if you want to be one at all. I can keep my account. That is your choice to make. But know this. The old stories you were telling, the folktales that connect your people to their history, those are valuable. They matter. Not because they get likes, but because they carry truth. They teach lessons. They preserve culture. If you choose to continue sharing them, do it for the right reasons. Share them because they deserve to be heard, not because you deserve to be famous. The goddess began to fade, her form dissolving back into mist. But before she disappeared completely, she spoke one last time. The real hidden reality of being an influencer, child, is that influence is not about how many people know your name. It is about how you use whatever platform you have. Will you use it to build up or tear down? To preserve or destroy? To connect or divide? That choice is yours alone. Then she was gone, leaving only the sound of the waterfall and the smell of fresh rain. Amara sat by the sacred pool for a long time, thinking about everything the goddess had said. As the first light of dawn began to paint the sky pink and gold, she finally stood up. Her legs were stiff from kneeling, but her heart felt lighter than it had in months. She picked up her phone and looked at it. 3,200,000 views now. The numbers kept climbing even as her world had been falling apart. She thought about deleting everything. Wiping her account clean and starting over. But then she remembered what the goddess said. It was not about the platform. It was about how she used it. Amara opened her camera and pressed record. Her face appeared on the screen, tired and tea-stained, with the sacred falls glowing behind her in the morning light. My name is Amara, she said to the camera, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. 3 million of you watched me disrespect a sacred place. You watched me treat my culture like a prop. You watched me value your attention more than my own integrity. I am here to tell you I was wrong. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I came to this place seeking forgiveness from the river goddess. What I found was more complicated than I expected. I learned that the real curse was not in the water but in forgetting what matters. I learned that being an influencer is not about showing a perfect life. It is about being real enough to show your mistakes and humble enough to learn from them. Amara took a deep breath. I do not know if I will continue making videos. I do not know if influence is something I want anymore. But if I do continue, things will be different. I will not post every day just to feed the algorithm. I will not pretend my life is perfect. I will not use sacred places or ancient traditions as props to sell products. And I will remember that real respect is not measured in likes. She stopped recording and looked at the video. It was raw and honest in a way her content had never been before. No filters. No perfect lighting. No carefully planned words. Just truth. The walk back to Bakara seemed shorter somehow. When Amara arrived, the village was already awake and buzzing with activity. She found Chief Ebayona and the elders gathered under the baobab tree, deep in discussion with a man in a government uniform. Mama Koku saw her first and ran to embrace her. You are alive. I prayed all night. What happened? Did you see the goddess? I did, grandmother. And I have much to tell everyone. Chief Ebayona called for silence. The village gathered, all eyes on Amara. She could feel their fear, their anger, their hope all mixed together. The river goddess spoke to me, Amara began. She told them everything, not leaving out a single detail. She explained about the copper mining. She explained about the natural causes of the red water. She explained about the real cause being in her own heart. Some people looked disappointed that there was no divine punishment. Others looked relieved that the problem had a practical solution. The man in the government uniform, an environmental inspector named Mr. Adelik, nodded along with Amara's story. "She is right," Mr. Adelik said. "I came to investigate the water problem. The copper runoff is severe. But it can be fixed. We need to relocate the mining operation and install proper drainage. It will take work and money, but your water can run clear again." "How much money?" Chief Bayona asked. Mr. Adelik named a figure that made everyone gasp. It was more than the village had in its entire treasury. People began to argue about where to find such funds. Some suggested taking loans. Others wanted to appeal to the government for help. The discussion grew heated. Amara pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. The money from Folktale and her other sponsors sat there, more than she had ever owned in her life. She had been planning to save it, to build a life outside the village maybe. But looking at the faces around her, at Mama Koku's worried expression, at the children who deserved clean water, the choice was obvious. "I have the money," Amara announced. The crowd fell silent. "The money I made from my videos. It is enough to fix the mining problem and clean the water." People stared at her in shock. Baba Femi stepped forward, leaning on his walking stick. "Child, that is your earnings. Your future. Are you certain?" "I have never been more certain of anything in my life. I broke something sacred by putting money before tradition. Now I can fix something practical by putting tradition before money. It feels like the right balance." Chief Bayona looked at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "The river goddess taught you well. Very well. We accept your offer, and we forgive your offense. You are still one of us, Amara of Bakara." The relief that washed over Amara was sweeter than honey. She had not realized how afraid she was of being cast out, of losing her place in the village forever. Tears flowed freely down her cheeks as villagers came forward one by one to embrace her. Neka, the mother with the sick baby, was among them. "Thank you," she whispered. "For learning your lesson. For coming back. For choosing us." Over the next few weeks, workers came to relocate the mining operation and install proper drainage systems. The red slowly faded from the water. Fish began to return to the river. Life in Bakara started returning to normal, or at least to a new version of normal. Amara posted the video she made at the Sacred Falls. Unlike her other content, she did not use trending music or flashy effects. She did not add hashtags or tag sponsors. She just let her raw confession speak for itself. The video went viral in a completely different way. News organizations picked it up. Universities showed it in ethics classes. Other influencers made response videos praising her honesty. Her follower count actually grew, but this time the followers were different. They sent messages about their own struggles with social media. They shared stories about forgetting what mattered in the chase for likes. They thanked her for being real in a world of filters and fake perfection. Companies stopped reaching out with sponsorship deals. Amara was glad. She did not want to sell products anymore. Instead, she went back to telling folk tales, but with a new approach. She interviewed the elders, recording their stories and wisdom. She made videos about traditional crafts, showing how baskets were woven and pottery was formed. She documented village festivals and ceremonies, but only with permission and never treating sacred things as mere content. Her videos became slower, more thoughtful. She posted once a week instead of every day. Sometimes she did not post at all if she did not have something meaningful to share. Her engagement dropped at first, but then stabilized with an audience that truly valued what she offered. One evening, 3 months after everything happened, Amara sat under the baobab tree with Mama Koku. The old woman was teaching her a new story, about a young woman who almost lost everything by wanting too much. That story sounds familiar, Amara said with a smile. Mama Coco laughed. Every generation needs to learn the same lessons. The faces change but the wisdom stays the same. That is why we tell these stories. Not for likes or views, but because they remind us who we are. Amara looked at her phone, then at her grandmother, then at the village around them. Children played in the clean river. Women sang as they prepared evening meals. Men gathered to discuss the day's work. This was real. This was valuable. This mattered more than any viral video ever could. She opened her camera one last time that day and recorded a final message. I started this journey wanting to be an influencer, she said to her followers. I thought that meant getting famous and making money. But I learned that real influence is not about how many people know you. It is about how you use whatever voice you have to preserve what is good, to share what is true, and to lift up what matters. The hidden reality of being an influencer is that if you do it right, it stops being about you at all. Amara posted the video and put her phone away. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that no filter could match. The river sang its eternal song. Somewhere in the forest, the sacred falls continued to flow, guarding its secrets and watching over all who remember to approach with respect. And in that moment, sitting beside her grandmother under the ancient baobab tree, Amara finally understood what she had been searching for all along. It was not out there in the vast digital world. It was right here, in the small sacred space of home, tradition, and people who loved you not for your followers but for your heart.